for communities on Tuesday the 8th of February. The meeting is open to the public. I'll just advise now who's in the room and who is on Starleaf. So in the room we have myself, Kelly Armstrong, we have Claire Ferguson and we have Andy Allen. And on Starleaf we have Aisling Riley, Anya Murphy, and I can't see the bottom of the screen there. Is anybody else in there? Stephen Dunn. Apologies, Stephen.
Oh, there.
Thank you. If there's any others that arrive, we'll certainly add them to the list. Members, I'd like to remind you of the requirement to declare any interest that you may have in relation to items under discussion today. But just moving on, apologies. I have apologies from our chair, Paula Bradley, today. I don't think there's any other apologies that have been handed in. Anybody else aware of any apologies? No, thank you. We don't have the chair's report today because the chair is not available. Members, just moving on then to agenda item 3, draft minutes. The draft minutes from the meeting on the 1st of February start at page 5 of your pack. Members, are you content to agree the minutes of the 1st of February as drafted?
Content, yeah?
Yep, thank you. Agenda item 4, committee deliberations on the support for mortgage, interest, etc. security for loans bill. Members, you've been provided with a copy of the report from the Examiner of Statutory Rules on the Delegated Powers Memorandum for the bill in your tabled papers. Members, have you any comments or are you content to note?
Content to note.
Content to note? Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Members, apologies. Good morning, Paul. Members, now the committee will now aim to complete its deliberations on the support for mortgage, interest, etc. security for loans bill. This is not yet the formal clause by clause stage, but that will come later in this meeting. Claire McCanny from the Bills Office is unavailable today due to illness, and we wish her very well. It's amazing that this is our last piece of legislation today, and our stalwart on it, Claire, isn't with us, but of course we wish her very well. She's been absolutely fantastic with this committee. A copy of the bill starts on page 11, the EFM at page 19, and all other papers start at page 24 with the latest departmental response to the committee queries from the meeting on the 1st of February. Members, are you content to proceed?
Yeah.
So just checking at this one here. Do we have officials coming in or no?
Mm-hmm. No, they should be on Starleaf.
Who?
Una McConnell and Hayley Ward.
Okay, no problem. So we have those officials here. Only one at the moment.
That is the lead official. So.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead then.
We'll maybe go on ahead then. We're due to have Una McConnell and Hayley Ward, but I believe Una is online, so we'll continue on then. If we can bring Una in. Hi Una, hiya.
Hi, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Una, we'll just start off. We'll see how long this takes today. We're hoping it won't be too long. So we're going into clause 1, security for loans for mortgage, interest, etc. Una, can you take us through your response to the last set of queries that we raised after last week's meeting, and then I'll ask members for questions or comment.
Yeah, well, the first one was about the process for write-off and the operational processes for registration and removal of statutory charge, and I forwarded you actually the loan management guidance, and it was just paragraphs 8 and 9. So I just forwarded you the whole thing, so I think that should cover it anyway. And then moving on to discussions regarding the potential to amend Article 13.9, so the regulations would be draft affirmative rather than negative resolution. And we did liaise with OLC and DSO as appropriate, and we provided a response. And the consideration was that we believe that this would create an unnecessary burden when making amendments to support for mortgage interest legislation. As you are probably very aware, NI Social Security is bound by the parity principle and regularly operates tight deadlines with regard to social security legislation. If the regulations were draft affirmative, any changes to DWP would possibly be delayed to NI having to go to the Assembly for timetable and debates, which, could come at a detrimental cost to SMI loan recipients and potentially the NI block grant. We give an example of the Loan for Mortgage Interest Amendment Regulations Northern Ireland 2021, which amended the Loan for Mortgage Interest Regulations Northern Ireland 2017 to clarify that claimants who have fled the accommodation for which they receive support for mortgage interest loan payments due to fear of violence in their home will be able to continue receiving loan payments for that accommodation for a specified period of time. And I suppose the point is, if these amendments would have been delayed, if we'd had to move to the draft affirmative procedure, had Article 13.9 required the Assembly control, and it would have delayed the beneficial changes. All proposing regulations are passed to the committee using the SL1 procedure for their consideration discussion prior to the making, and once the statutory rule is sent further, and then once made, the statutory rule is also sent to the committee for scrutiny. If there's any disagreement with current amending regulations subject to the negative resolution procedure, this can be annulled if a resolution of annulment is passed within the statutory period and the statutory rule becomes void. Office of Legislative Counsel further comments that it's worth noting that the regulations under Article 16, Transitional Provisions, and 22, Power to Make Consequential Amendments, are also subject to negative resolution, and the approach taken in the 2016 order, whereby the exercise of power is subject to negative resolution, seems to be common in social security legislation, although this is obviously subject to exceptions where an important or potentially controversial exercise of power is contemplated. And this approach taken follows the corresponding provisions in the Welfare Reform and Work Act 2016. So, and then I suppose it just goes on sort of, even if we then were just to make an amendments for that relates to the statutory rule, the regulations would then be split, unless the regulations would be split, they would still all be subject to the more stringent procedure. And the Department Solicitor's Officer has, I can't talk. Department Solicitor's Office has agreed with the comments made by OLC and have commented that the power being given to the Department by the bill is the power to make regulations providing for the repayment of a loan to be secured by way of statutory charge, providing the taxpayer with another method of security within the existing SMI framework. The bill is not changing DFC policy and providing assistance to homeowners by paying interest on their mortgage. And that really the bill is essentially fulfilling the policy intent that all loans be secured. So in summary, the Department believes the current process of committee consideration prior to regulations being made, scrutiny after they have made, and the ability to have statutory rule annulled ensures that all statutory rules subject to negative resolution receive adequate consideration and scrutiny. So that's just a quick summary of the letter.
Thank you very much.
Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Members, anybody have any comments or questions for Una following that information? Just in case you haven't already seen it, that copy's in your table papers. Anybody, anything? So I'm just checking here online. Not seeing anybody coming forward. Is that Una? Well explained for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then clause 2, folks, if we don't have any other comments on what Una has updated us on. No issues or comments have been raised on clause 2. Members, have you any other comments on the clause? Or Una or Hayley, have you anything that you want to add on clause 2?
No, not in clause 2.
Is there anything else that you have that you want to bring forward on anything, Una, just before we would?
I think, well, we did get a copy of the Hansard report from our last meeting, and I think we just wanted to clarify just a bit about the recovery from a person's estate or from equity. Hayley, do you want to do that, or I'm happy to do it now if you want, or?
No, I don't mind, I'll do it. So with regards to the comments made about repayment from a person's estate, just to clarify, the Department will only seek to recover the SMI loan from any available equity. When the transfer is being processed, the Department will be made aware of any available equity and will make the decision then whether to recover, whether to seek repayment of the loan. In the case where there's sufficient equity to seek recovery, if person B, the person who's actually the property is being transferred to, doesn't wish to sell the property in order to repay the loan, that's the point where person B could look to the estate to repay the loan. The department does not look at the available funds in a person's estate when considering if the loan can be repaid. So the decision to seek recovery is considered and made based solely on the available equity in the property. And then the write-off of the loan would only then be considered if there's no available equity.
Okay, so that was when we were trying to work out if A and B, A and B weren't married. Is that
Yeah.
it? Yeah. And B and
Well, I think it was just a transfer of the property to another person. If that person didn't want to sell up, how could they pay? So the Hansard came in, we had a look at it yesterday, and it wasn't incorrect. We just thought we'd maybe want to clarify it just to make sure that, you know, it was completely clear, because it's kind of hard to explain. And, you know, so it's just to say that, you know, the department, when we're looking to repay an SMI loan, doesn't look at the person's estate. It's only the available equity in the property. Is that okay?
Just for clarification then, so say for instance, Mrs. Smith, just using that name, unfortunately passes away. Her SMI is still, there's amount still outstanding. The home is passed on to son or daughter, say for instance. They don't want to sell the home. There would be equity in the house if the house was sold. So would that SMI then fall to, if the son or daughter who inherited the house didn't want to sell the house, there would obviously be a calculation based on what the market value, say for instance, of the house would have been. They can pay that back at that stage without having to sell the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great, because I know that was something that we were concerned about, but no, thank you very much for clarifying that, and it's worth having it on the record for that. Thank you. Any other parts then, officials, if you have anything you need to get us to remember before we go into our formal clause by clause and get this report written?
No, I think that's it.
Brilliant. On that basis then, folks, thank you very much. We're going to go into a very short closed session, and then we will go into our formal clause by clause. So I'm just going to go into, is everyone okay if I go into closed session just for a few moments before we do our clause by clause? I'm just checking with him.
Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30.
Thank you very much, members, just for that quick check before we go into the clause by clause session. So now we're in public and we are now agenda item 5, the clause by clause consideration of the support for mortgage, interest, etc. security for loans bill. Members, the committee will now commence the formal clause by clause consideration of the support for mortgage, interest, etc. security for loans bill with Una and Haley from the department. I will read out the title of the clause before I ask the formal question on the clause. Members, if you have any final queries for the officials, please alert me before I read out the formal question on the clause whether the committee is content with each clause as drafted. So we'll kick off now. So clause 1, security for loans for mortgage, interest, etc. Is the committee content with clause 1 as drafted? Yep, thank you. So just to indicate for the record, the committee is content with clause 1 as drafted. Yes? Clause 2, commencement and short title. I have to ask you, is the committee content with clause 2 as drafted?
Then.
The committee is content with clause 2 as drafted, yes?
Yes.
Long title. Is the committee content with the long title as drafted by the department?
Tent.
The committee is content with the long title as drafted by the department. Members, that concludes the formal clause by clause, and the committee team will now finalise the draft committee report and get it out to us for consideration at the meeting on Thursday. Thank you very much for that. Members, just to say that is our last piece of formal legislation of this mandate for the committee. Thank you all, and I know Paula's not here today, but I'm sure she would join me in saying we have knocked ourselves out to get an incredible amount of legislation through, scrutinised well, so thank you for that. And just to say, agenda item 6 now, date, time and location of the next meeting. Our next meeting will be this Thursday, the 10th of February at 9 a.m. in our normal room 29. Thank you.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern